Welcome back to Uncovering Real Estate, the show brought to you by the Brampton Real Estate Board. Before the break, we were talking to Alan Carson about home inspections, and we're going to continue the conversation now. So, Alan, we just briefly touched upon the notion of taking the suggestions in a report seriously for the seller, and you were of the opinion that the seller should not. You'd care to elaborate?
Absolutely, and we come across it all the time. And so when a seller engages us to do an inspection report to help them market their house, we invariably find things that can be improved in every home. And the seller's first reaction is to say, well, let me take care of those and let me fix them so that the report is absolutely clean. And there's a couple of problems with that. Firstly, there is no perfect house, and so buyers are realistic and are going to expect to find things in the home inspection report to be improved. Perhaps more importantly, the seller's goal is to move on from that house and move to their next home. They are not motivated to make improvements to the house they are leaving.
Right.
So if we say the furnace needs to be replaced or the roof needs to be replaced, if I were the seller, I would find the lowest priced entry-level quality furnace and get it installed as quickly as I could. Now, that slows down their process. It makes them take money out of their pocket. It can lead to frustration if the work does not get done on time or doesn't get done properly. People don't show up.
Yeah.
Prices are higher than what was quoted. There's all those frustrations of home improvements that come with every job.
Right.
So we encourage people to stay away from that. The other thing is that if the prospective buyer of the house is very much interested in energy conservation and low costs, they may be interested in a house with a high quality, high efficiency furnace, and if it were up to them, they would buy a kind of top of the line, state of the art furnace.
Right.
The same thing with roofing. If you put on a base quality brown entry level asphalt shingle roof, you might push away buyers who are looking for a high quality laminate shingle or even a wood shingle or shake roof.
Right.
So
or different color maybe. Right?
Different color.
Yeah.
So we encourage the sellers to say, let the house stand alone, and if we have, let's say we had $10,000 in improvements that might be made to the house, I don't think there are very many people in the GTA who can guess the price of a house within $10,000 as to what it should be listed for.
I highly doubt that.
So if you were going to list the house for $779,000, maybe you say it's $769,000, and you say that the listing price of the house reflects the conditions in the report, so
Right.
that has been adjusted for. And that allows people to move forward more quickly. It saves the seller a lot of grief and a lot of time, and it allows the buyer to go in with their eyes open, knowing what they do, and yet have an opportunity to make their house their own. And we have seen over the years that most people, when they buy a house, it's really not their home until they make a change in it, if they remodel
True.
the kitchen or do something. We find almost everyone wants to come in and sort of put their own fingerprints on the house and make it theirs.
Absolutely.
And so the things in the home inspection report are part of that story. So it's sometimes tough for sellers to agree and understand and accept that because they want to show off the house proudly and have it be perfect. It probably works to their disadvantage to do that.
Oh, that's great to hear, and I think you bring up a very good point. After all, for most people, their house is a big part of their identity, right? It is their home. Before we move on from sellers' inspections, very quickly, Alan, do you think you mentioned that it's a phenomenon that's caught up recently? Do you think going forward we're going to reach a point where a seller's inspection is a de facto part of the buying and selling process?
I think we're on that curve, Wasim, and I think we're going to get there, and I'm not sure whether it's going to be in 5 years or 10 years, but I think ultimately every home inspection will be done for the seller before the transaction.
Excellent. All right, now shifting gears, generally about home inspections, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you see out there, Alan?
It's kind of the crystal ball syndrome, I call it, and people say, and again, not knowing anything about it, why would they think anything differently? But people assume that a home inspector will be able to see through walls, predict the future, recite building code. And the building code discussion is an interesting one in the sense that people say the code, but people don't understand there's a building code and a plumbing code, an electrical code and a gas code, and other codes as well, depending on what's in the house. And each of these codes is updated on a regular cycle. So there's no human being that could possibly know all the codes and all the versions.
Right.
The good news is that homes are not required to meet modern code, which is to say codes are not retroactive. So when something changes in the code, an improvement, it is just that, an improvement. It's not a requirement for every old home to be updated.
Okay.
So a house built in 1980 will not be the same from a code perspective as 2016.
Right.
So the home inspector's perspective is to say, and most home inspectors understand the code, but they don't quote the code or apply it because that's not fair to an older house. So what we do is we say, let's focus on the performance. And what we do is, it's a visual inspection. It's not our home, so we can't go in and tear it apart and destroy it. It's an operating test inspection, so we get up on the roof, we open the electrical panel, we run the furnace, we operate all the plumbing fixtures, we go up into the attic. So it's a visual inspection, it's an operating test, but again, we can't sort of peel back the skin and look behind. And that's probably the big misconception, that a home inspector will tell me everything about the house. We provide great value and tell you lots, but we just cannot see through the walls.
Very interesting. I'm glad you painted that picture. I'm just going to use that juxtaposition that you mentioned, the 1980 to 2016, the contrast over there. Is it true that home inspections are meant only for old houses, or can new houses also have home inspections?
That's a great question. And we have some of our inspectors actually focus on brand new homes.
Okay.
So my answer to your question is all homes should be inspected. And we actually created a training program for the Ontario Association of Home Inspectors to help home inspectors inspect new houses. The trick with new houses is they haven't had a chance to stand the test of time, so we can't go in and evaluate the performance. And what we do is we go in and evaluate new homes against the Ontario New Home Warranty Program, which is now called the Tarion Program. And so we look at that through a different set of eyes. But in the same sense, we're looking for things that haven't yet been completed, things that haven't been done correctly, and so on.
Okay.
So again, even with new homes, there is no perfect one.
Okay, all right. We'll continue talking to Alan after a quick break. Stay tuned on Uncovering Real Estate.